And we're joined by a special guest in the studio tonight, Dr. Ted Sutton, someone who is a community activist and has been in this city for years now, someone who used to be a gang member and knows better than anyone what is taking place on the streets of Baltimore. And Dr. Ted, just in the past 12 months alone, today we have another incident where another student is shot in Baltimore City. What is transpiring in Baltimore right now?
What you see is a major shift in the culture. See, when I was in the streets, and I thank God that I had the opportunity to change, and that's why I started People Can Change Youth Movement and People Can Change Ministries. But the key piece is that we had a certain level of rules. And when you have the people who are not there to be able to at least show you certain things, so a lot of them, like in my book, I talk about a lot of these young guys, nobody's even taught them how to do wrong the right way. So they even doing wrong. And so when you omit the rules and you have people, trying to start certain things up the different way, it's really much harder for them to really, try to escape a life if they're not exposed to a different life.
And you and I, we talked about it before we came on camera here. When you mention rules, you're referring to rules, guidelines that used to be followed on the streets.
Yes.
That years ago, when you were a gang member, there was certain protocol that had to be followed.
Exactly.
Seems that is non-existent now.
Well, it was funny because, I never considered myself a gang member. We were crews, and back then, people represented their neighborhood. So you had a person representing this part of the city and that part of the city, and different things of that nature. The culture has really changed. So you have a good portion of older and leadership removed. So when they are removed, it's almost like you have the blind leading the blind. And so, you need more people. See, before you can change, you have to live so that you can change. If they don't even get a point to live, then they can't change down the road if they don't make it to 17 and to 18. I've been to too many funerals of 15 and 16-year-olds in just the last couple of months that, is really just almost at a staggering number.
Since the uprising with Freddie Gray, the surge in violence has become the new norm. It is constant now. It is consistent. But over the past 12 months, we're seeing youth-on-youth violence.
Yes,
teenagers constantly gunned down. Your thoughts on that and why we're seeing it so often, Dr. Ted?
Well, after the uprising, you saw a shift anyway. When people saw, how things happened with the youth and the police, when everything happened during that day, that was one thing. But then when we went into a situation where the pandemic shut everything down, you had a lot of people couldn't go to graduations, a lot of people could not go to proms, a lot of people, it changed everything. And then they were losing social skills, being home, having to do things social, through social media, having to do things on the internet. And then a lot of people didn't understand that was very hard. And so as people, we didn't realize that people were being affected in those homes also. So you had a lot of people being evicted, a lot of people having to move, a lot of parents that were losing jobs. And then some people were losing some of their benefits. So you had children that really, we just thought that, okay, once we open up the school, everything is just going to be, rainbows and cherries. And that wasn't the case. They were really coming back, and it was almost like being traumatized, like PTSD. We just came out of war, but we're coming back. And there should have been some wraparound services for some of these youth, because a lot of them came back almost with a loss of hope. And like we said earlier, when you take hope from a person, you actually, create the perfect criminal, a person with nothing to lose. And you don't want to deal with a person that has nothing to lose. And so we have to bring the neighbor back into the hood. And not just making it the hood. See, right now they see it as the hood, but we have to bring the neighbor back into the hood and make it the neighborhood. And so that we are held accountable for our children. I'm not afraid to talk to that person on the corner, because to me, that's your nephew. I'm not afraid to talk to the young boy that's standing in front of the store and might be smoking, something that he probably shouldn't be. You know what? Because that's somebody's son. And so I see it a little bit different, and we have to not have a us against them mentality. reality to be able to focus on trying to bring them into the community.
And one thing that we have talked a lot about here at this station is the topic of mental health and the way it has impacted our youth over the past couple of years. And for you, this is a big part of it now. What has transpired from the COVID pandemic, the fallout, if you will, and how it is affecting our teenagers, not only in a form of depression, but possibly a lot of anger and outrage.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be real honest with you. When I talked to some youth and I did a workshop, a good portion of youth, now this was actually middle school, I had a portion that told me, they said, well, one of the issues that they had, they said that was bullying, but then they also said we should not feel or consider taking our lives, talking about, committing suicide, and I was just like, wow, we're talking about middle school and we're talking about children who at that point, they should be thinking about their hopes and their dreams and where we can go, what we can do and how we can change the world for the better and everything. And they're really, some of them are contemplating that maybe the world would be better if I'm not here. And if somebody was listening, I want you to know that we need you to be here. We need you to not even consider something, that catastrophic, because the world would miss you if you were not here.
So for you, you're seeing that direct link from the pandemic to our students. You're witnessing it firsthand.
Firsthand. I mean, this is something that I've had to see that has been amazing, and I've been seeing, and just like I said about going to the different funerals, but I think I shared with you kind of off camera to have a young person that literally he passed away right around Valentine's Day. This young man who's 16 years old, but he was pretty much a minute away from his birthday. He was pronounced dead at 11:59 before his birthday, and we had to do his funeral on Saturday. And I'm gonna tell you that just broke my heart to see those young people come in, and I wanted to hug every last one, and I wanted to say, everyone, you can change. In fact, when I spoke, I said, if somebody is saying that you are not somebody and that you are worthless, I was saying, take my number, and I will call you and tell you and encourage you on a day-to-day basis, because that's how strongly I feel about it, because we have to, I said your success starts where your comfort zone ends. So we're going to have to come out of that comfort zone. So for the ones who say, well, it's not my problem, it's not my issue, it wasn't my nephew, it wasn't my son, that's the same ones. We need you to be a part of this too, so that we can try to make change.
Last question, Dr. Ted, your message to parents, guardians, teachers who have a son, a daughter, a student in trouble, in need, what would you say to them?
I would say, look, when you look at them, it's like, don't be born an original and die a copy. Let them see that, that they are something. Give them, and you know what, and yes, they are going to get on your nerves sometimes, but if you would just give them a chance and an opportunity, I think that show them that at least one person can believe in them. I do feel that there can be a change and there can be a difference, and that's how we're going to try to make a difference all together.